That was the last time I had crabs. Oh, sorry, are we on?
Oh, I'm sorry, Drew. I didn't tell you we're recording. Well, Sports Limelight. How's it going, Drew?
It's going well. How are you, Bill?
I'm not as itchy as you are, I suppose.
I'm itching to get this segment going.
Well, we are going to talk about conspiracies in sports in this episode.
Ooh, spooky, spooky.
Our favorite ones, the most valid and perhaps least valid ones.
Right.
So often truth is not 100%. So maybe we can give our percentages of, how much we believe in certain conspiracy theories.
I hope David Stern is listening tonight.
Oh, boy, his name is all over this list.
Man.
Why don't we just start right there? First conspiracy. Do we even want to call this a conspiracy? Because it happened. It actually happened. And to deny it would be ridiculous. 2002 NBA playoffs, the officiating of the Lakers-Kings series to ensure the Lakers would beat the Kings.
Yes, I find it quite interesting. There's even a breakdown on YouTube. It's like a 12-part series somebody made. It's called the last or the worst thing in sports or something. Anyway,
no risk of exaggeration there, right?
Right. It's just amazing how many things you can see or how many different calls or no calls that went for the Lakers.
Referee Tim Donaghy, of course, went down for that and went to jail, wrote a book, kind of laid it all out there.
Now, is the conspiracy that David Stern was in on it, or was it just the referees trying to make some money on the side? Or
yeah, that's where it separates from being stuff we know for sure and, more conspiracy. Personally, I think David Stern has outcomes that he wants, and the best conspiracies are unspoken, so he doesn't need to say a word. The referees just know it and try to massage. The NBA, the calls can be so subtle and momentum shifts are so subtle that you don't have to be outright blatant in your calls. Just one here or there, to change the course of the game.
Right.
Maybe an important player on the team you want to lose gets into foul trouble early and it goes from there.
Right. Making the other team frustrated. Even that's enough to turn the momentum.
Sure.
Is make the other team become frustrated and, play in a lower caliber.
It's like putting your finger ever so slightly on the scale to tip the balance.
Right.
And not one of those big scales, like a scale you would weigh your apples with at the grocery store.
Prior to this series, what about the infamous 1985 draft?
Oh, that's my favorite NBA one. Commissioner David Stern himself slams the envelope against the side of the hopper or whatever it's called. An envelope which you and I, are we in agreement that we believe it was frozen as well?
I think it was somewhat cold, yes.
To get Patrick Ewing to the New York Knicks.
Right.
In the first ever NBA draft lottery.
Yeah, the first ever. Interesting.
Yeah,
it's like the pilot draft. Let's see what we can do here.
And of course, now, today, is held behind closed doors with a series of codes on the wall and all this bizarre false specificity. Steve Zabin had this. He kind of likens it to a magic trick where there's misdirection on purpose for you to miss the trick. Like, look, nothing up my sleeve, look, nothing, all part of the plan.
Is this filmed? There's no cameras in this thing?
No cameras allowed.
Wow. Why don't they just make the draft like the NFL? The team with the losing record, worst record, gets the first pick.
Yeah. The theory on that is so the commissioner can have maximum leverage to award favors to the most options of teams that he wants. Like you have 11 teams in the lottery. Hey, New Orleans Hornets, you just got new ownership. We just spent the last year tinkering with and vetoing your Chris Paul trade for Pau Gasol, I think that one was going to be.
Right.
So.
And then what about, you just mentioned this one to me. I had no clue what it was. I've never heard of it before. Michael Jordan in his so-called forced retirement.
Yes. Now this one, while we mentioned percentages earlier that we'd want to throw those in there of how much we believe. I'm 95% on the first NBA lottery being fixed. I'm 80% on it being fixed now. And I'm 100 on the 2002 NBA playoffs because that was proven. I'm only 25% on this one. Michael Jordan. One thing that was well known is he loves to gamble.
Right.
And as the conspiracy theory goes, he was really in deep, and David Stern would have had no choice but to discipline him for something that maybe would have looked really bad on the league. I don't know if he was accused of gambling on NBA games or just gambling in general. It
Right.
didn't quite get developed that far. But apparently he was under investigation in 93. Then he retired and the investigation stopped.
Wow. So we're thinking possibly Pete Rose kind of sanctions here? Betting on baseball and whatnot?
Possibly. The 25% of me that believes it's real would look at something like, knowing what we know about how super competitive Michael Jordan was to a fault, and then at age 30 to just say, oh, I don't want to go for a fourth straight NBA championship, or I don't want to aspire to get 10 rings someday, or break, at that point in his career, maybe aim to break Bill Russell's record of most championships. I'm just going to walk away and I'll play baseball for a while. I'm exhausted. And granted, his father died that year, but I don't really see a correlation between, like, my father died and now I'm going to stop my career.
Yeah. Well, you never know what goes through someone's head. He just won 3 in a row. What else does he have to prove? He's probably wasn't in the best shape mentally at the time because of his father's passing. And he played baseball growing up a lot, I think more than basketball. So, there's that hidden hunger to play baseball, maybe, just to see if he could.
Sure, and that kind of goes into the 75% of me that believes it's not true.
Right. Another part of the 75% that it's false is, even if David Stern threatened to suspend Michael Jordan, wouldn't Michael Jordan just say, you know what, go ahead, screw you, I'm going to just keep playing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and would Stern really go through with it? Then,
right, put his league in that negative phase.
How about Spygate? What do you think about turning to the NFL?
Yeah, Spygate. Well, it's obviously true that they were spying on teams, right? The Patriots. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, the part where it veers into conspiracy territory for me is how Goodell rushed to cover it up and burn the tapes and not ever release what exactly was on the tapes, what they were using them for, how much of an advantage it gave the Patriots. Obviously, it gave them an advantage because they were warned before that season, we know you're doing this, just knock it off, from now on everything will be fine. Yet they couldn't shut down the cameras for one game, opening day, against a division rival whose coach was a former Patriots assistant, Eric Mangini.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. So the theory is that Roger Goodell had a part in this, or he just knew about it and just let it slide?
I think he wanted to downplay the effect of it. The whole thing was settled 5 days after it was discovered, where, on a Sunday it all broke, and then like by Thursday or Friday of that week, the tapes were burned, it was over. So comparing to the Saints bounty thing, which has been going on for, 3-4 months?
Now, so with the Spygate, did the Patriots get punished at all?
They were penalized a first-round draft pick.
Okay.
So, the 30th pick in the draft gone. And they were fined, I think, $1 million, which was the biggest fine ever. But, it's just money.
So they didn't vacate any wins?
No
because
wins.
They were cheating?
No, none at all.
Wow.
So it was kind of an effort, I think, to minimize the damage.
Right.
To the credibility of the league. And, the Patriots, a beloved franchise.
Interesting.
Beloved by some.
Yeah. Well, now just, straight from conspiracy theories to what I like to talk about is game rigging games just completely, knowing what the outcome is going to be before the game starts. Is that possible, or is that plausible to you?
Well, you'd hope that the money is good enough these days that compared to, say, the 1919 World Series, that when players, were given by gamblers more money, a lot more money than they made playing the sport, so you'd hope that they're not as influenceable today.
Right.
But it's certainly possible. It's not unheard of that a player, it happened in college, right, recently.
Right, in college basketball. Now, is it easier? It's going to be easier to do that in basketball.
Yeah.
Because an individual player can make more of a difference.
Right.
As opposed to, somebody missing a block here or there, or,
Yeah. You could still succeed with a missed block somewhere.
Right.
Now, I didn't ask. I gave my percentages of how much I believe they were real. What are your percentages on these so far?
I think the Michael Jordan one is probably 1% for me.
Yeah, so just not buying it.
Yeah, not buying it. I mean, obviously there's a chance. That's why it's called a theory. The draft one, the 1985 draft, I put that at 50-50.
Okay.
I still don't see anything too concrete. I mean, it's just all speculation about the temperature of the draft card and whatnot.
Yeah. We could have sure used a smoking gun or a steaming envelope
right.
in this case.
And with the Lakers and Kings, I mean, there's more evidence there than any other conspiracy theory. So that's going to be closer to 75 for me, 75-80.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know for sure.
So how do we as fans handle conspiracy talk? Should we be overly generous to the leagues and, not buy it, or should we be super skeptical and not believe things that they tell us?
Well, I think it depends. If your team's on the losing end or the winning end.
Yeah.
When your team loses, you tend to blame everything but your team sometimes when it comes to that, especially
Sure.
in the most important stages of the game. But I think it's easier to get caught up in that when your team's not doing well.
Yeah, I think as fans, it's important to be fair and give the benefit of the doubt when you can, because you'll have more credibility for when you really do have something to crow about. I'll give an example. NBA conspiracy theorists. There's a host on ESPN Radio who doesn't deserve to be mentioned on Sports Limelight, and in an answer to the question no one was asking kind of thing, tried to shoot down any NBA conspiracy theories, which, the NBA and ESPN, of course, together in a $1 billion partnership, that says something to credibility. He tried to shoot down NBA conspiracy theorists by saying that the Memphis Grizzlies led the league in free throws attempted last year. Well, obviously that settles it, because the NBA conspiracy theorists were pointing to the 2011-12 regular season fouls called as proof of conspiracy. So it's like a form of doth protesting too much, except it's a category or a subdivision, I might say, of the doth protesting too much, which is answering a question no one was asking.
Oh, right.
And putting it as your side of the argument.
Well, people do that in general, with sports or without. They tend to place things or argue or present facts that benefit their argument.
Yeah.
Rather than looking at it in a whole or as a whole. But when it's all said and done, these sports are businesses. So there's always that percentage of doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
How can we make the business better or earn more money? Put teams that are, have bigger fan base or, a wider area.
Sure. And sometimes it's just human error and it's not meant to be a conspiracy. I felt there were just a couple of horrendous calls in favor of the Green Bay Packers against the Giants in the divisional round of last year's playoffs. And I think it
You mean the game that you guys won?
Yeah, handily, yeah. I wouldn't claim at any point that it was the league wanting the Packers to beat the Giants, but I just feel like it was, Aaron Rodgers, kind of a known, golden boy of the league, and referees as humans probably were swayed by that perception that we can't let Rodgers get hurt, or, just like superstar NBA players might get the benefit of the doubt on an iffy foul call, whereas a non-superstar wouldn't get that call. So
yeah,
I guess the moral for me, or the final outlook, is be fair to your opponents and pick your spots. And meanwhile, if you're the other side, if you're the league, or if you're trying to shoot down conspiracy theories, be fair and address what claims are actually being made. And if the truth is on your side, you have nothing to hide.
Exactly. You have nothing to hide.
And you wouldn't have to ask a radio talk show host if he still beats his wife, right? Like a few months ago.
David Stern, you funny man. I've heard some talk from our listeners that there's a conspiracy here at Sports Limelight, Bill.
Oh, no.
That we've been subconsciously playing a loop while we're recording, saying, "This is the best show ever. Please listen."
And I smashed the podcast against the side to make a wrinkle before I put it on YouTube, so that David Stern can find it when he needs it.
Yeah, it's frozen when it's uploaded.
Well, Sports Limelight, thank you for listening, and judge for yourself on whether these claims we've made are fact or fiction. We'll talk to you next time.